Clubhouse is also recording this, but wanted to let you know that the recording of this is going to be available on all of my social channels. If you have to run out and want to listen to the rest of it, that's always an option for you. So welcome again to everybody. It's been a long time since I've been on here and live. I have taken some time off during the summer and glad to be here today. So for those of you who don't know me or meeting me for the first time, I am Nelly Yusupova, CTO, Startup Tech Advisor, and creator of Tech Speak for Entrepreneurs, which is an online program where I teach entrepreneurs the best methodologies, the best processes to manage tech teams and projects, even if you're not technical or know how to code. My goal is to get your teams and processes tightened so that you can save up to 50% on your product development costs. So if you need resources, I've got plenty. I have webinars on my TechSpeak website that are absolutely free. So click on the link in the bio to check them out. And today's session is going to be structured generally how we usually structure it. I'm going to start with some topic that I want to discuss and give you some content and food for thought to think about. And then we'll do live Q&A. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and I'll be bringing up people to the stage in about, 10 minutes or so. So if you have a question on anything that I say or anything that you've been pondering, definitely raise your hand and you'll be able to come up and ask it live. If you are joining me on all the other channels, feel free to type your questions into the chat and I'm keeping an eye on the chat and I'll be able to answer your question there as well. So if you're joining us on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook or anywhere else, just type your questions into the chat and I'll keep my eyes on the chat to be able to address those questions as well. So let's get started. This week, I want to discuss a question that I received from an entrepreneur on a coaching call. They have a product and some customers. They're a team of about 30 people. And their main question to me was, how can we improve our marketing to get more people to use our product? After diving into their circumstance, I pretty much showed them that the problem that they needed to focus on is actually not on marketing, but it was on retention, retaining their customers. Let me explain. So I hear things like, I'm struggling to get customers. I'm having a hard time getting people to use my product. If I only had these features, I would have more customers. I read and hear some variation of these statements from entrepreneurs multiple times a day, every single day. These entrepreneurs' solution to solve the lack of customer problem is to do more marketing, so more and more people see the offering, or to build more features and functionalities into their product to make the product more attractive, because they think that, hey, the reason why people are not joining is because the product doesn't have enough features. So they hope that getting their product in front of more people will result in a flood of prospective customers banging at their door, right? Which is their app. Or that by endlessly building more features that their customers will finally see the value that they're promising with their app. But that is rarely the case. If you can't get people who find you organically to become customers, that won't change when you put your product in front of more people. I'm going to repeat that again because this is a key statement. You need to maybe even write this one down. If you can't get people who find you organically to become customers, that won't change when you put your product in front of more people. If you're not communicating the core value of your app effectively, building more features won't suddenly make the product appear more valuable. That's just a fact. You have to find out why people are not signing up. and why are they not staying? That's the goal. So if you're struggling to get customers and struggling to get them to use your product on a regular basis, you need to go back to validation and go through the customer development framework. And if you've never heard of that, or if you need resources, check out my website, techspeak.co. I have a lot of free trainings on that. So the goal here for us is not just to build a product, right? We need to build a business around the product idea. You can't just focus on building a great product. You need to continuously iterate on the product and the marketing side as an entire team to effectively find product market fit. And that's why it's so important for your entire team to work in tandem and be focused on the right things at the right time, to know what experiments to run on the product and also on the market side. Because the more experiments you run, the more you're learning and, of course, gathering data points that will help you make better decisions on what the next step should be. I call this product velocity, which is the CEO's ability to align their entire startup team to focus on the right goals at the right time so you can quickly and efficiently learn who is the exact target market that is willing to use your product on a regular basis and is also willing to pay for it. Even if you found a market with a big pain point, if they're not willing to pay for it, you don't have a business. This is really, really important to understand. If you want to build a business, you need to figure out the business model. And if you're having trouble getting customers, the problem could be on the market side or the product side. So it's not always the marketing. On the market side, you may be marketing to the wrong customer segment or not communicating the value of your product well enough, or your business model is not suitable for the customer segment you're targeting, and so many other things. On the product side, you may need to analyze and improve the retention of your product and understand the exact combination of features and functionalities that can get them hooked on your product or service by becoming an important part of their life and keep them coming back to using your product over and over and over again. If you scale your marketing campaign before you fix the product retention issues, you're basically wasting your marketing dollars, because even if you convince your users to sign up to the product, you won't be able to keep them as a customer because your retention metric is broken. And that's why it's so important for your entire team to work in tandem. And that means your marketing team, your business development who are doing sales, right? Your product team, your development team, all of you need to work in tandem, because by understanding what the issues are, by talking to your customers, you will better understand what needs to be fixed and how. And you as a team then need to focus on all different facets of your product and market to be able to fix those problems. Founders always tell me, yes, I talk to customers. I talk to them all the time. But if your questioning was not aligned with specific hypotheses that you want to test, then you're missing out on a lot of real nuances and gems that can help you refine your understanding of the problem and therefore help you build the best solution to address those problems and design marketing campaigns that will speak directly to your customers, all of which will help you find product market fit better and faster. That's why I always say validation, which is module 1 of the TechSpeak training, is probably the most important step in the product development process. It's the very first step that I teach entrepreneurs how to do really well, whether you are in the pre-idea stage, just getting started, or if you already have a product in the market with lots and lots of customers. You should always be talking to people, because that's the best way to find out the why. Why are they using it? Why they're not using it? And then, of course, connecting it to specific hypotheses is where the gold is. So you're continuously validating, even after you launch the product, to make sure that you're positioning your product to the right audience, that you're communicating the pain points that your product solves correctly, and you're building the features and the functionalities that you know will actually solve real problems for the customers and create value and actually add value continuously into your product, and of course, create more desire for your users to use your product. I teach all of this stuff and the exact process that I just mentioned in my free webinars that you can register at techspeak.co and click on free classes, or if you're already in Clubhouse, just click on the link that is pinned to the room and check those out. I'm also doing a live webinar on how to reach product market fit on Tuesday. And we'll talk about all the metrics that you need to keep track of. What is product market fit? And the exact process, the 10 steps. Today we talked about the first step, but I'm going to talk about the rest of the 10 steps there as well. So if you are interested, go to techspeak.co and click on free classes, and you'll see one of the workshops will be how to reach product market fit quickly. So check that out, register. They're absolutely free. And it's a great way to start learning and implementing some of these, because on average, the people that I work with cut their product development costs by up to 50%, which is a huge cost savings, right? For a lot of founders who don't have a lot of money, who are bootstrapping, and for the founders who have raised maybe a little bit of seed round, they're not going to be in constant fundraising mode. That's why it's so important to focus on team and process and constantly focusing on tightening all of that up. So with that, I hope that was helpful to you. It's been on my mind ever since I talked to the founders, and I love the fact that they are thinking about it, but they should have been doing this all along the way, right? It's a way to constantly iterate and learn on what your next steps should be. And with that, let's answer some questions. So if you have a question, we're going to be here for another 45 minutes. I have to end the room at around 9:30. So we have 45 minutes. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. Jarrett, I am inviting you to the stage, but I'm not sure if you can hear it, or maybe you stepped away. But if it doesn't work, leave the room, come back, and maybe that'll work for you. All right, so we have Christine here on stage. Christine, feel free to unmute your microphone and ask your question.
So, thank you for having me.
Christine, can you speak up closer to your microphone, because we can barely hear you?
How about now? Is that better?
It's a little bit better, yes.
Maybe it's this here. How about this?
Well, continue. It's a little bit better. It's still on the low side, but I think we can hear you.
Okay. Not much I can do about that. I have a couple of different microphones running, so I don't know which one is connected. But what I would say is, I was just messaging you in the back end. I think at some point we should trade notes. We work with a lot of startups that are seeking non-dilutive funding that's not going to take equity from their company. And typically they're pursuing something like SBIR, STTR. And I was just listening to what you had to say about, product market fit and trying to develop a proof of concept and all of those things. And I think we should trade notes, because I think it would be an excellent resource for a lot of our clients. A lot of times when they come to us, they're not ready yet for something like SBIR, and to be able to point them to somebody that can help them get them ready, you would be a fantastic resource to be able to point to our clients.
Great. Thank you, Christine. I will definitely connect with you, and we'll maybe set up a call to talk about next steps. Great. Anybody else have a question? I think, let's see, I'm inviting somebody, Hussein. Yep, I think, I never know when things are going to work in the Clubhouse. So be patient. And all right, Hussein, I think you're on stage.
Yes, finally. First of all, I really thank you for sharing all of these key concepts. I can tell from the pre-conversation and the actual talk that you have given that we need as business owners, we need to highlight the marketing, the product, the business model. But I'm just speaking to you as a startup business. I've started 3 different businesses like consultancy, branding, and technology.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge that I can find the type of customers that would attract to my products. Do I have to focus on just like the technical aspect, which is like my website, or I have to focus on something related? How would I develop my products? So the way I did it, honestly, just from my side,
Mm-hmm.
is I've worked in my products, I've defined the customers, but when I came to the market to start market my product and start selling, I find it quite challenging to find the right customer.
Yeah.
So it'd be great if you had any insights to this.
Yeah, Hussein, that's a great question. So I'm going to repeat it so that people who are maybe didn't hear the question, they get it. So the question is, more of, okay, Hussein built a product and showing it to potential customers and not getting as much traction with the specific customers he's targeting. So the question is, how can he do that better? Is that correct, Hussein? Just want to make sure I got the question.
Yes, correct. The challenge I have is, as you said, it's about more of marketing my product. And even though I know exactly, you could say, what's your target customers? I know them, but it's really hard when it comes to the market to find those potential customers.
So are you talking about user acquisition?
No, just my target audience. Like for me,
okay,
it targets specific like CEOs, business owners, and this kind of stuff. But it's still a challenge for me when I go to the like digital market to find these customers.
Okay, so just for reference, okay, and I know Hussein, you didn't do this way, but I'm going to mention it for the people who are maybe a little bit earlier than you, that this work that Hussein is describing, where you need to identify the exact target market, understand what their highest pain points are, how to communicate those pain points, user acquisition strategies, business model, all of that can be worked out even before you build the product. And in fact, should be worked out before you build the product. Because the earlier you're able to do that, the more likely you can pivot in the idea stage, right? And really understand who is the exact customer. Is it on any given time, at any given time, there could be, even within the CEO market, you could have 5 different customer segments that you can go after, right? Is it a CEO who has a type of business in tech, or is it a CEO who runs a brick and mortar startup, right? They're different problems, different customer segments. Yes, they're both CEOs, but the way that they have the solution you may need to provide for the same exact problem in different industries, different segments of the market, different number of employees, so many different differentiators that you can use to actually become much more precise in targeting the exact right customer, right? Which is why we're talking to different types of customers of all different variations and trying to find the one that has the level 12 out of 10 problem when it comes to what you're trying to solve. And that's where you're starting. In the early days, you want to be able to start with early adopters. So if you have an idea of who your target customer is and you're not able to reach them, right? The people who have the pain point that you're trying to go, they are going to want your product because they have the pain. They want it solved and they're looking for a solution. And that's in the early days what you're looking for. There's so many people who could potentially need your product, but your product in the early days may not be complete. It may be full of bugs or whatever else, right? It's not prime time ready. So you need to be talking to the people for whom you're going to solve that one core problem that they are having. So the challenge that I would give you, if you're struggling to really focus in on this ideal customer, is go back to the validation, Make a list of all the potential customers you could go after and just have lots of discussions. Again, make sure that they're connected to hypotheses. So you're not just asking random questions, right? You need to be testing certain things based on your specific hypotheses and create questions around the hypotheses so that you're asking better questions. You're asking questions that will help inform you rather than give you just answers. And then that'll give you a lot of information on what you could be doing better to acquire your customers, what you could be doing more efficiently. It could be with messaging. You could be targeting everybody and therefore targeting no one, right? But if you are going in and focus in on the specific target audience and you go after those specific people, because now you know they have the pain point 12 out of 10 level. And not only that, when you tailor all of your website copy to talk to them, when they read your website copy, they're going to say, wow, this person, this business really understands me. I should be working with them rather than similar people who do something similar to you, because you have hit it on the nail with them. I have this all the time with founders when they come to TechSpeak and take some of my webinars. The feedback that I consistently get is, it's like you're talking to me. You know all of my trigger points. That's the feedback that you want. You want people to say, oh my gosh, they understand me. So of course they can help me because they get me. And that's what I would challenge you to do. That's the first thing that I would do. When I was talking to the client that I mentioned, they already have some base customers, but they now wanted to scale. But then I asked them about, what's your retention numbers, right? What is your retention numbers? And it was like 0.02%. So if I was in that business, I wouldn't care about marketing. I wouldn't want to bring more people to use my product. I would just, with the customers that were on my product, try to figure out why are they not staying and improve the product first. 80 to 90% of your early days should be focused on making sure your retention numbers are high, because if your retention numbers are low, spending a lot of money on marketing is going to go down the drain, because you know that, okay, even if you were able to convince them, Hussein, to come to your website and register for either a free trial or try it out for a month or whatever, you're not gonna be able to retain them. You're not gonna keep them as a customer, and that's a problem, right? So you need to be able to know at what point in time to focus on the different things that you need to focus on. Because this process, this iterative process, goes on for years, right? If you attend the product market fit workshop, which I would highly encourage you to attend on Tuesday, we talk about the specific metrics. And most founders think that product market fit is going to take 6 months, but it takes more than 2 years sometimes to find, especially if you're not very strategic with the things that I'm telling you to do.
So what's the number one strategy you actually use to return your potential customers?
To retain them?
Yes, from your business perspective.
Oh, you have to understand why they're not being retained, right? You have to understand, in order to solve problems, you need to understand what the problems are and why people are saying those problems exist. And then, again, it's always coming up with the problem. You need to understand the problem. Once you understand the problem, then you can have 10 different possible solutions, which then become your hypotheses that you're going to test. That if I do this, my numbers will go up. If I do this, my numbers will go up this way, right? So it's a very strategic hypothesis testing process. So, but first you need to understand the problem. You can't solve a problem if you don't understand why, which is why I'm telling you, it's always going back to going to the customers, understanding to the people who are on your platform right now, or your existing customers, interview them. Find out what they find valuable about your service, what they don't find valuable about the service. If they don't renew, why? right? So those are the one-on-one customers. And then in my 10-step process, the 10th step is also the is analytics, where you need to define behavior analytics that are important, your KPIs, we call them, key performance indicators, that you can then track within your application that can help you kind of scale your learning, okay? By you collecting the right data and understanding how your users use your application, you're going to be able to make decisions, product decisions based on data, right? And then again, the things that you learn, they're not going to be things that you're going to immediately go and build. You're going to go back to step number one, which is validation. You're going to really understand, okay, so I'm seeing this as a problem in from my customers. Is this really a problem? Maybe you need to do some more customer development, which means one-on-one conversations. Maybe you need to do other things, right? To learn about the problem. Once you understand the problem, then you say, well, the best way to solve this problem is through X. You could have 10 X's, which is X is a solution, right? But those solutions are, again, hypotheses. Okay, if we do this for X number of time, for the X number of months or X number of days or whatever else, then this will happen. And if once the time frame passes, if nothing happens or you don't see a change, then you could say, right, it's a check-in point that will say, that will allow you to ask a question and decide, do I need to change? Why is this not working? Or this hypothesis is just not true. So the stuff that I'm teaching you is really scientific based. It's very hypothesis driven, and you're not, and it's designed to this is the phrase for the process that I teach, is to learn early, learn often, and learn cheap. You need to optimize everything you're doing for learning, because there's so much uncertainty, there's so much unknown in the early days of your startup that you need to not make assumptions, but test them. The smaller your hypotheses, the smaller your experiments are, the faster you'll be able to learn and then get data points to inform you on what the next step should be. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Nelly. This has been really valuable to me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Definitely check out the webinar on product market fit that's coming up on Tuesday. I think that'll be very helpful to you to see the full picture of what I'm talking about.
Sure, I'll sign up for that. Thank you.
Great. All right. Let's see. Isaac, welcome to the stage.
Thanks for having me.
Do you have a question, Isaac?
I do.
Go ahead.
But sometimes my signal is kind of...
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Excellent. My question is, I just started a company here in Ghana. It's a tech company, but me, I'm a non-techie. So my CTO is the one that's in charge of building the website and the app. Just to give you a brief summary of what the website or the business plan is. Here in Ghana or here in Africa in general, people just buy houses outright in cash. It's not like what we're used to in the Western world, where you can finance properties, put down the down payment, and then mortgage the rest of the value of the property. So I'm trying to introduce that same concept and that same mentality here, starting with Ghana. Mm-hmm. And my question is, my CTO has this company, and his company is creating the app system for my website. My question is, in terms of equity and ownership, how much should I allocate that? Should I say 30% of company ownership to him, or because I kind of feel like he okay. I kind of feel like he's kind of, yeah.
All right. So Isaac, first of all, don't make this decision very lightly. When we talking about co-founders, CTOs, all of that, and how much to give equity to them, depending on how much you want them, depending on what they bring to the company. And the most important thing is the relationship that you have with them. Are they aligned with you on more than just their skill set? there is this statistic that I learned that the number one reason why a lot of companies don't get off the ground, the number one reason is not because they couldn't build a product, but because they couldn't agree on how to build it or how to move the company forward, right? So you, especially as a non-technical founder, the mistake that a lot of non-technical founders make is saying yes too quickly. They say yes too quickly because it's so hard for anyone to take you seriously, right? To say yes. And so the first person who says yes, they generally just they don't vet them, they don't ask the questions, they don't have the hard conversations that you should be having before you start the business together. So all of these things, I don't know if you did this. I'm also kind of saying this and sharing this for the rest of the people who are listening to this. Make sure that you've done your due diligence. Okay. There's a video on my YouTube channel that I created on the 6 qualities a CTO should have. So check that out. I think that might be helpful for you to assess what level of CTO are they in the beginning, right? So a lot of people use this word CTO as a default title for anyone technical, but the job of the CTO is oftentimes at some point is not write code. They're a manager, right? They are the creator of the process and scales the team, and they hire and do all of these things. That's the traditional role of a CTO. So now you're giving someone the role of a CTO at the early days, right? Because they maybe want the title, but are they actually a true CTO? Or do you actually need a developer who can help build the first version of your product? I'm a CTO. I haven't written code in the last 10 years, just because I don't have time, right? My role has changed. And so you, based on where they are, based on their potential into growing into the CTO role, because yes, you're giving them the title right now, but if they're not CTO material, let's say they're not a good manager, maybe they are not a people person, and at some point they need to become one. They need to be process oriented. They need to be very thoughtful. They need to not only have the technical knowledge as a CTO, but also the business knowledge. And it's a special type of person. And so you need to be looking for those qualities earlier on to make sure that at some point, either this person outgrows their role, which by the way, CEOs do as well. And you need to maybe replace them with someone who has the skill set that you may need at that level of the company, or can they grow into that role? And the amount of equity that you give, it can be anywhere from 2% to 10% to 30%, right? And if they're a co-founder, it could be more. It all depends on what they bring to the table. Ultimately it's a negotiation. That at the end of the day, no one can tell you how much you can give away. What I would do is do some research on what's acceptable for your exact situation, and then have a number in mind of what you would be okay with giving away. And then I'm sure he'll do the same thing, and he'll have a number in mind. And then you guys are negotiating. And your ability to actually negotiate through this stage, which is a whole lot of difficult conversations, is actually a first kind of clue on how well you're going to work together. There's going to be lots and lots of difficult moments and difficult conversations in your startup, and your ability to, with dignity, not just have a flaming discussion, but a dignified, structured, productive conversation, and work through who's going to have what equity. That's going to be a huge clue on what it's going to be like to work with them and make decisions with them. So hopefully all of those resources were helpful to you. Check out the videos, and I don't know if you have any follow-up questions.
Just Nelly, to elaborate to a point that you have really highlighted. So when I work with some of founders, and CEOs for a number of tech companies, you've really highlighted something really important. They are technically very expert, but are actually lacking the business skills. They don't really familiar with business strategy or how we do proper business plan or business model. Like they have a great 20 years experience, but when it comes to understand the key elements of business skills to run and scale the company, I think that's the challenge. And that's sometimes what we tackle if they're not coming from a business background.
Yeah, thanks, Hussein. I see that all the time. The other thing that's really important is a lot of technical people also build technology for the sake of technology, right? They just want to build tech. But if you're in a startup, as I mentioned earlier, you need to be focused on marketing and customers and tech, and they all need to work together. You need to be able to iterate really, really quickly to get to product market fit quickly. And if your CTO, or what, let's just call them technical person, I don't know if you should call them CTO, whatever, you can call them whatever you want. But if your CTO is not customer focused, if he doesn't understand the quick iterative cycles that you need to do in a startup, they may also not be a good fit, even if they have 20 years of experience. And this actually brings up a good story of a friend of mine who, she was a non-technical founder here in the US. She partnered up with someone who was a CTO for a Fortune 500 company, so a pretty large enterprise. And she ended up doing 90% of the work because everything he suggested was not good, like from a technical standpoint, right? So she had to dive in and learn and ask all these people, like what technologies were they using in their startups so that they can use something similar, right? And having alignment on not just skill set, but their ability to be in a startup environment is so important in the early days. Not everybody is well suited for it. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of decisions you need to make. There's a lot of tough times. It's, especially once you, as I mentioned, it takes sometimes 2 to 3 years to find product market fit. And during that time, everybody's getting along because things are going well. But when things are not going well, or let's say you're not reaching the customers that you need to reach as fast as you want to reach, or as fast as you thought it was going to be, that trove of sorrow is what they call it. There's actually a technical name for it. That is when the true colors of the team come out, especially the C-level executives, right? Like the CTOs, the CEOs, and everybody else who's at the helm of running the company. So lots to think about. There's a lot of resources out there. Feel free to ask a follow-up question if you have. If not, then we can move on to Rahil.
Thank you so much, guys. And I actually do have a follow-up question.
Go for it.
Yeah, he's very business inclined. Like I said, he has his own tech company, and he's the CEO of that company. And I brought him on board so that he could help me on that tech side. But my question is, since I'm a non-techie, I don't know anything about the code, like anything about the background, right? How do I make sure that that he has my best interest at heart by law? When I say that, I mean, obviously.
Yeah, so there's a webinar I'm going to point to in an interest of time called How to Build an MVP Without a Technical Co-Founder. It's techspeak.co, which is my website. Click on free classes. And it's it's on demand, so you can watch it whenever you want. And in there, I'm going to talk about exactly what you should be doing. For everyone else who's here already, and just to kind of sum up a lot of the concepts and a lot of the issues that you may face as a non-technical founder. So there's one red flag, potentially, that you just mentioned. So he is the CEO of his own company, and he's now going to be a CTO for yours. It sounds like he's more of an advisor rather than a CTO. And the distinction is very, very important, especially when you're talking about how much equity to give to them. Are they going to be writing code for you? You know, like if not, then you shouldn't be giving them 30%. They're not going to, if he's running his own company full time, he has a conflict of interest, right? Especially if his company is going to be providing the development, if that's the case. He may hide a lot of things from you. Tell me, actually, is he actually going to be providing the development? Is his company the development firm?
Yeah, his company is the development firm. He has about 20 tech people that works for him, and then one of his group out of the 20 is like working for me.
Okay. You have to be very careful, because if he's your CTO and his company is also developing the software for you, there's a lot of conflict of interest here. I've seen that. I'm in fact rescuing a project right now where they paid an exorbitant amount of money, over $1 million, to an agency like this who gave them their CTO, and only a quarter of the product has been delivered. And this is a year later. So this is like, I've just heard way too many horror stories, and this seems like a red flag to me. So have the conversations, really understand, maybe you need to bring somebody else who is maybe a fractional CTO or an advisor who would be actually working with the team. And in my Tech Speak training, I'm actually going to be teaching you that you need to be the product manager in the early days, work with the team directly. I know you're not technical, but you can learn these skill sets. You can learn how to talk to the team effectively. You can learn how to set a process and expectations with them. And that's the only way you're going to know that they're not delivering on time, that they're running behind, that they're not doing what they're saying, right? There's a lot of issues that you may come to. And unless you're there working with the team, understanding what's happening, and get yourself up to speed, you may run into a lot of problems. The bad rap that outsourcing gets is as a result, in my opinion, after many years of actually analyzing this, like, why is this all happening, is because there's no accountability from the founder. The founder has complete trust that the team is going to do what they're promised to do. But that's not always the case, right? If you're not checking up on them, they are not going to be as diligent. You're not going to be able to spot the red flags early enough before they become giant and expensive problems. So to me, this situation is never good. And now you're also going to give them equity into your company, and you don't even know how well do they execute. Can they deliver on this thing? So this is another issue for me, that I've seen a lot of founders give away equity to development shops before they even know, hey, these guys are great. These guys have a process that works for me. They have delivered something. And it's like putting the cart before the horse.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I do not mean to rain on your parade a little bit, Isaac, but my goal here is to share with you all the things that I've seen happen, all the horror stories that I've heard over the years, and hopefully you can learn from some of them to not make those mistakes. All right, so Rahil.
Yeah, that's exactly how I needed to hear.
Awesome. Rahil, I hope you can hear me. Feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask your question. Rahil? I see that you are new here. There is an unmute button that you need to do in order to speak, because we can't hear you. Maybe you stepped away. All right. So, Hamid, are you here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you about the points that you mentioned, because like I was in my last experience as a product designer, then as a head of marketing in a startup, like seeing some of those points in our CTO, and I was wondering like what are the main important qualities or criteria to choose wisely in CTO? And then it kind of came to my mind without even without researching or asking, because I have a software engineering background, that isn't only the technical part. It needs a lot of management skills and needs some layer of vision and strategy. So is it true?
Yeah.
And what do you think? How can we put those criteria? And does it depend on the product itself?
Yeah. So Hamid, let me just repeat your question because your voice was breaking up a bit. So the question was, what are the qualities that a CTO should have? Is it just management skills and business know-how, or is there anything else? Is that correct? Sorry, you were breaking up. I just wanted to say yes or no. Okay, I'm going to assume yes because I can't hear you. All right, so there's a video on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/digitalwoman, where I've actually created the exact video that you should be watching, the 6 qualities that CTO should have. So besides the management, right? So there's a lot of management. So there's people management, process management. There is culture that you have to create, because the developers that work for you need to be connected to something beyond just writing code, right? They need to understand what it is that they're doing and why, and recruiting and all of these things. But to me, the most important thing that a CTO should have is communication skills. It's their ability to be the translator between the technical people and the non-technical people, to be able to eloquently communicate their point of view on different levels of tech. So being able to be super techie with the technical people and super non-techie with the non-technical people, and be able to explain to the non-technical folks the concepts that they were trying to explain, right? So you need to have that empathy to be able to understand that this person is not as technical as me, and I need to be able to explain it to them like their 5-year-old, right? So the communication is the biggest arsenal that I think a CTO should have. Being able to be business-minded, people-minded, really understand the emotional IQ, the emotional EQ, not IQ, is so important, because you need to feel and have an understanding of what motivates people, how to get them to be the better version of themselves, how to help them be more successful, right? So you're not just a manager, but you're also a mentor and a leader, all of those skills that you will need, because you're now not just a technical person, right? You're setting the technical vision for the company, but you're not doing a lot of the work. Your VP of engineering is probably going to be doing the technical work. Your developers are going to be writing the code. You're going to have product people and designers and all of that stuff, but you need to make them see the unified vision. You need to make them connect and work together, which is very tough to do, so that they all understand each other. So they are all focused on the same vision, that they see the goal of what you're trying to do. And if there's any issues, obviously to be able to address them and motivate the team to get beyond that. So those are like the main points that I think the CTO's job is. And it's that empathy to be able to communicate and really see people as people, and not just they're my developers. So hopefully that helps, Hamid.
Really, thank you. It summarized a lot of points. Thank you.
You are welcome. All right, so we have time for one more question. Rahil, welcome to the stage. All right, so everybody all of a sudden, oh, Rahil, are you there? Okay, so I'm going to add Amy. It seems like everybody fell off the stage, but there's a lot of people who've raised their hand. And Amy, I'm inviting you to the stage, but it doesn't seem to be working. Okay, Rahil, you're back. You're unmuted. Let's see if we can hear you. Nope, I cannot hear you. So it doesn't seem like that's going to work. Oh, there we go. There's sound. Okay, go ahead and ask your question. Rahil, can you speak a little bit louder because I can't hear anything? Barely. Can you maybe get closer to the microphone?
Nelly?
Yes.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Barely. So go ahead and speak. Get closer to the microphone if you can.
What are some demand generation tactics you use to gain buyers' interest?
Sorry, I can't hear you. I can't hear you well enough to actually understand the question.
Do you hear me now?
There's also feedback on your end. Let me see if I can. Okay, can you speak slowly and let's try it one more time. Nope. All right, so Rahil, maybe we can try again, or you can ping me on.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, 1 second, Adonis.
Hello.
So Rahil, we cannot hear you, so we're gonna skip you for now. Just reach out to me.
Hello.
Yes. Rahil, can you hear me?
Yes, Rahil, you are audible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Rahil, I'm going to move you down to the audience. Reach out to me through Clubhouse, and I'll answer your question separately. All right. Okay. So Adonis, please tell me how to say your name, and then feel free to ask your question, and then we'll wrap up for today.
Hello.
Hi. Adonis? Hello?
Nelly.
Yes. Please ask your question.
Hello.
Okay. It seems like people maybe can't hear me. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. I just realized that I was on mute. Welcome to the stage, Adonis. Go ahead and ask your question.
Could you explain the title?
What was that?
Could you explain the title?
The title of what?
Title of this room?
I am answering questions for non-technical founders who are running a tech startup. If you have are you a non-technical founder?
No.
Okay. Do you have? Are you running a startup?
No.
Okay. Well, maybe. Let's see. Okay. So, why did you come up to the stage? Why did you want to raise your hand?
So this title, how can a non-technical person run a company that's completely technical?
Okay. So what I'm going to do in an interest of time is to point you to a webinar that I have called how non-techies can launch successful tech startups, or how to build an MVP without a technical co-founder. Both of those webinars can be accessed through the link that's pinned to this room, which is techspeak.co/free-classes, or just click on techspeak.co and then go to free classes in the navigation bar. You'll see the classes up there. Those are the two that I would recommend for non-technical founders on how to effectively work with a tech team, right? They're not actually going to be writing the code, because that's not my goal. My goal is to teach founders how to manage the teams, how to communicate effectively, how to set the right expectations, how to implement a process, even as a non-technical founder. And then once you have the skills and the confidence and know exactly what needs to be done, you are going to be able to spot the red flags before they become big, giant problems. You will be able to empower your team with the information that they need, and you're going to be able to leverage their expertise more effectively, right? You're also going to be inputting and guiding them, etc. So you're going to be the product manager, the project manager, usually oftentimes as a non-technical founder, and also have enough tech skills to be able to the tech knowledge, the foundational basic knowledge of the tech ecosystem, which I also teach as well. Between the three things, you as a non-technical founder should be able to launch a tech startup successfully and build a successful tech startup. Airbnb founders were not technical founders. They were both non-technical founders. They had a developer that they hired. It took them 6 months to hire their first developer. They took their time, and that developer eventually became their technical co-founder. But they first paid them. They first figured out that they can work with them effectively, and etc. Right? So you don't need to be technical to run a tech startup, but you do need to have some foundational skills that I just mentioned in order to be able to do that. So hopefully that helps. Again, check out the webinars. They will break down everything step by step for you, and will be very helpful in helping you understand the things that you need to do to earn a technical co-founder, the specific process you should be using, and how to set up your relationship with a tech founder, tech co-founder, and or an outsourcing agency, if that's what you will decide to do as a way to bring your company or your first version iteration of the product to life. Those are all the three things that I will talk about in those webinars. And on Tuesday, on August, 31st or 30th? Which day is it? I don't remember. But this coming Tuesday, I'm teaching a webinar on how to reach product market fit quickly. So if you're interested in that topic, that one is going to be a live webinar, and I'll talk about all the definitions of product market fit. I'll talk about the metrics that you can be using to know if you're on the way to product market fit, and then the exact process you should be using to get there really, really quickly. So with that, I'm going to close down the room. If you want to keep connected, go to techspeak.co and join the mailing list. So I will send you tips and tricks and all of that stuff. And all the time I'm going to be live, you will be able to get notified as well. So that's probably the best way to stay connected, to get connected. And I look forward to supporting you on your startup journeys. Thanks for joining me here and asking the great questions. Without those questions, everyone else in the room cannot learn. So thanks for being brave enough to be able to come up to the stage. Have a great weekend. We will talk to you soon. I'm hoping to do these every 2 weeks, but we'll see how things go based on my schedule. Awesome. Thanks so much, you guys, and have a great afternoon.